in your little rocket pack, you have got some plastics, the balloon buster plastics. We don't actually have any part numbers on these, I've just noticed, but it's pretty straightforward, so I wouldn't worry about that. We do have part numbers on our stickers, and you'll notice that you've actually got 10 of the rocket stickers, which gives us a couple of spares to play with should we make a mistake, basically. So you've also got a couple of very small diameter plastic tubes. There's enough here to do eight rockets. So if you do fudge one up, then these are fairly easy to find. I think they're about 3 millimeters diameter. Anyway, what we want to do first is make our plastics. So we need to get the parts from the sheet. We've got the sort of all-in-one part here at the top. We've got sort of like a star shape here of parts, 4 parts that go to create the rocket tips, and then we've got a rack of 4 individual parts here that actually create the entire rocket itself. So let's just, what I find is with these smaller parts is that if I turn them over, I can actually see where the joins are to connect them to the sheet, so I can use that to my advantage when I'm actually cutting them out. So just going through material, they're only little tabs, they're pretty easy to go through, but obviously we want to make a good job of it, so we don't have too much in the way of material sticking out where it shouldn't do. So I'm just going to assemble the one side. Obviously the construction is handed because their positions on the aircraft is also handed as well. So you'll notice that on this particular part you've got this sort of V shaped straps there that correspond to the shape of the interplane strut on the Nieuport. So just removing all the bits from there too. And the last bit is right at the end of the rocket tubes. These represent the tubes that the rocket's tail, because essentially it was a big firework, big rocket firework. Those tubes are what the tail went into. So on ours, obviously they're flat rather than tubes, but the graphic gives them that sort of rounded feel. So when you actually look at them, they look the part. So you've also got these little bits here which represent the electrical connection to the rocket itself, which is a nice little detailed touch there. So that's our one half there. This is the side that will go against the strut itself. So this printed side will be stuck to the strut. So this is our left hand or port set of rockets. So what I need to do now is just cut out the pairing up part. So these here conveniently placed next to the port side rack. So these have a very similar mirror image of the tails on the part we just cut out, plus we've got the rocket tip as well pointing forward. In designing this particular detail pack, have to be very aware that the Nieuport it's a small model, and so these have to be as light as possible, especially as we're putting them onto near the wingtips essentially. So adding weight to the wingtips will put a extra work for the rudder to do, because obviously these kits don't have ailerons. They're just too small for the added weight. But in testing, these little rockets actually don't make much of a difference in the performance of the flight, and that's because they are ridiculously light. They're less than a gram per strut, so which I think is pretty good going for the level of detail that we're getting. So essentially what we do is we marry up our parts. You can see, especially with the electrical loop there, matching those up, and then along the length of that pipe tube, along like that. So that's where we want to stick it. So let's get the glue, which is over here, weirdly enough. Should be there. There we go. Let's just check our nozzle. We may need to do a bit of nozzle clearance. Yeah, certainly looks like it. So open that up. We just need to run a fine bead down where they're both going to come into contact with each other. So a little on the wire there, just to make sure they stick. And then it's just a process of popping that on there, and I'm doing it whilst the glue is wet so we can maneuver it into place. But once, it's actually easier to get it to go down with the glue on than it is to dry fit it, just because obviously the glue sucks the part onto the other. So there we go. So I'll do the next one, and then we will pause the recording so that you don't have to suffer me doing all four. We can move on to the next stage of the build. So a little bit of glue on, then pop our rocket into place. Go. Fantastic. You'll notice this is all very flexible, which is a good thing. And actually, it's stiff enough to resist the forces upon it when it's in the air. But obviously, if you do have a heavy landing, or just mishandling the aircraft, even sort of getting it in and out of a box or something like that, these things will just sort of flex and bend out of the way without breaking or causing any problems to the struts that they're sitting on, or the rest of the structure of the aircraft. So that's all, that all works very well. Right, let me pause the video. I'll get on and do those other two, and then we'll come back and do the next part of the build. So we've got all of the corresponding parts onto the other side of our framework. the next step is these little stars here. So you can see, I'll bring that up. So you've got these little arrowheads here with slots in, and you've also got on your rockets themselves little slots in the end of the rocket, so you can see what's going to happen here. If I take one of these off, literally that slots in to the top there. I'm trying to do it with tweezers so I don't get my big fingers in the way so you can see it. So let's try on this one. Nearly got it. I'm going to have to resort to using my big fat fingers. There we go. So it forms a sort of a cruciform at the tip with the two arrowheads coming together. Let's just do another one. And there we go, like so. Now I'm not even going to bother gluing those in. You can do, but obviously that adds a teeny tiny bit of weight. So I know that these are all going to well, there's going to be a sticker wrapped around them. So so we'll carry on. It's I won't pause the video. You can watch me do this. Oh yeah. Watch that these don't fly off. When you cut them. So there we go. They're quite a nice tight fit anyway. If you pull them down, the slots should be of the exact length so that both of the points come to the same point, if you get my point. That's a little bit of excess glue there. I'm just going to peel away. Good. Okay. So now we've got our rockets. The only thing that we need to do now is put the rocket tips themselves on, and of course, obviously, we make those with our tubes and our stickers. So all of the stickers are marked RS1. I'll confidently not use my spare. Now, peeling this off, I always start at the yellow end and then move up to the more complex, what I like to term Pac-Man end. You can see, if you're a fan of 80s, 70s, 80s video games, you can see that the tip of that looks like, well, it looks like a Pac-Man with a weird protrusion coming out of the top of his head. Anyway, the reason I do that is obviously it's delicate around the area here when I peel off, and there's always a danger that could split and tear. So by peeling it off from the yellow end and moving through, I've got control of that whole process. Right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to lay our tube right down the center of the rectangular part of this sticker and make sure that the top of the tube sits right at the top of the sticker. Now what I have noticed is that there is a slight angle on the top of my tube, so I'm going to try and get rid of that by holding my tube along one of the lines on my board and then using the other posing lines as a guide to just cut through and create a flatter finish on the top of the tube. So that's not too bad, it's not perfect, but it'll do. So now I'm just going to lay that tube down into the middle. There we go. Just trying to obviously get it so that it's running precisely down the middle there. So I've got even amount of material either side of the tube. That looks good. And also on the other side of the tube, you'll notice that there is a little graphic there, a little sort of a brown stick. And that's exactly what it's supposed to represent. It's the stick attached to the rocket. Oh, just pull that off. The stick attached to the rocket that goes into the pipe that we just created here. Obviously, when we're assembling it, it doesn't do that, but this is what it's supposed to look like. Obviously, these rockets don't actually work. They are for show. So, okay. So what we've got now is an indication at the bottom of this rectangle where we need to cut our tube off. So I'm going to do it with the sticky side facing up so it doesn't stick to the board. Obviously I've got to be careful that I don't actually cut the sticker. So I'm just going to precisely go through, and there we go, it's flipped over and it fortunately didn't stick to the board. So, right, so there is a process here that must be followed to get best results. What we're going to do now is we're going to pop the tube over the tip of the rocket, and we're going to pull the tube all the way down so that rocket tip pokes out of the tube at the top and comes somewhere close to the V of our little Pac-Man shape at the top there. So the other thing that I want to check before we do anything is that our little stick graphic on the back there lines up with the tube at the back there, because obviously the idea was this stick goes into the tube, and then when the rocket is lit, the tube is actually part of the aiming system, and the rocket shoots off from there. So if we've got all that lined up, then what we need to do now is make the cone at the top. So the first thing I do is I actually gently fold our shaped part at the top towards the tip of our assembly. And then the right side of the sticker, I then bend round, my fingers for this, and that little tab should come to bear onto the tube itself, like so. So that starts making our little cone. And then I'm just using the knife, I'm going to bring the rest of the stick around, and it will actually stick to the other side of our little shaped part. And then once it's stuck down sufficiently, so go with it with the knife, I'm then going to fold this round the other way. And there we have a nice little cone at the tip of our rocket with our little tab, which I'm just making sure is all stuck down to our tube. And then once we've done that, I've got a sticker stuck to the finger, we can then complete the wrap of the tube with the rectangular part of the sticker. that should go all the way around, and then we can press it firm. And there we have our first rocket attached and ready to go, ready to launch. So I'll go through that once again. So we take our tube and peel our sticker off. Let's just pop that down. So as I said, you go from the yellow end, start the peeling process, and then when you get to the top of the rectangle, just carefully maneuver that. I just do a sort of a little wiggle just to get it all free, and then we can stick our tube in the middle of our sticker, like so. Then chop it at the appropriate place. And pop it onto one of our rockets. I'm just doing this in sequence from the bottom. And of course, because it's all flexible, I can flex the structures out of the way of each other. Anyway, let's pop that up so that the point comes out the top of the tube and sits somewhere close to the V in our little shape at the top. And then we can push the sticker up towards the tip so that it's touching. So we've got a sort of an angle there. You can see that. Before I start folding that round, you'll notice that I'm trying to get the sticker to sort of align with the direction of the tube itself, and then just folding it a little bit further round. In fact, I'm going to come back on myself. I've just noticed that's so it has stuck on the other side, but I'm not happy. I ripped a bit off, which is a bit of a shame. But what I can do is, because I've got a couple of spares, I can remove this sticker. There we go. And don't forget, on this particular occasion, my little arrowhead, or half of my arrowhead came off. So get rid of that. Put that back on. And we can go again. Thank goodness there are spares. So what happened there was that I didn't have the tip of the rocket far enough out of the tube. So when I folded, I need my cutoff. Don't use the excess tube. Use the bit that you've already cut off. Yeah, so I didn't have enough of the rocket point poking out the top of the tube to get a consistent wrap. So I got a bit of an overlap. So if I'd have wrapped the whole part around, there would have been some of the adhesive side of the adhesives. I'll do it while I'm not doing things. I'll talk while I'm not doing. It had a bit of the adhesive side showing through, so which is white. So that would have not looked particularly pretty. So I'm just positioning this onto our sticker. Missing the mark there. Need it a little bit further up. There we go. So go again. Put that onto the rocket. Make sure my stick graphic lines up with my tube. So, when I say tube, I mean this sort of black structure that sits at the center of the whole operation. So, make sure our point's where it needs to be, and then I can start the process. Of making my cone. Second wrap. All the way around, there we go. And then I can fold my sides up. Around the sticker, sorry, around the tube, and stick my sticker down. There we go. So you may just want to add a little bit of pressure on that join just to make sure that the sticky adhesive does its thing. There we go. So that's how we assemble the rocket pack. I'm just going to finish off those two, come back and show you, and then we'll move on to the next stage, which is the application of the stickers on the other side of the brackets. We've got our 4 rockets on their stalks, a little tips, all nice and formed into cones. The last process that we have to do before adorning the aircraft with our rockets, we need to apply the stickers to the brackets on the rockets. So we've got 2 types. They look pretty much the same. One is slightly longer than the other. RS2 is the longer, so it goes on the longer diagonal. So essentially, what you want to do is when you attach it, you want the contours underneath to show. So you've got one of the rocket tubes going through, and if you press the sticker down around that tube, it should create a bit of a rise in the sticker itself as it goes over the structure, which is what the bracket would have done in real life. So it gives a sort of a 3-dimensional element to the whole thing. So I bring it up here because it is very small. I've gone off course slightly, so I'm just going to drag it back a bit. So I'm just pressing the sticker down so that you get these where the tube comes across. You get these little raises in the underneath the sticker. So that's, and this is the side that we're going to see when it's attached to the strut. So you get that effect. So on the shorter strut we use RS3. Obviously just line up one end as best you can. I always find this difficult at a distance because obviously I'm trying to keep my head out of the way. Otherwise I'd be sort of crouched over this. There we go. Press that home. So once again we get that contour forming. Excellent. So the last stage of the process is to attach that to our struts. So here's our aircraft. I haven't got the motor on at the moment, but that doesn't matter. So we literally need to pop these onto the strut. Now you need to position it so that the brackets sit centrally on the struts themselves. So too low and you'll have them pushed out to the edges, too high and they'll be too close to the inside. So if you just manage it so that when it attaches, the brackets sit pretty centrally to the struts themselves, you will usually, that means that the rear bracket, the top sits pretty much over the first band on the strut itself. So you can use that as a bit of a guide. So just the top of it, see there, sits on the band there, and then as you'll notice, the rockets actually angle up on the whole aircraft, which you will have no doubt seen on the images of the aircraft anyway. So on the website, etc. So that's where it goes. Now, to make it relatively removable, so you can fly with or without, you don't have to be particularly generous with the glue. So I'm just going to put a little dab at the top and the bottom of the bracket, like so, and maybe just it's coming out rather well. A little visitor here, a little fly buzzing around me. It's landed on me now. So I've just got a few little blobs there. Let's pop them into the position I was talking about. There we go. And then we can just let that glue dry, and we have our rockets now in place on our model. So let's give that a quick twist, slight twist there. So there we go. Now all you've got to do is, with the other bits that you've got available, make another set to go onto your starboard wing, and away you go. So there we go. That is how to put together a rack of the Le Prieur rockets for the Nieuport 17.